BBC News with Sue Montgomery. A big fire has broken out at Evin prison in the Iranian capital Tehran, where hundreds of political prisoners and dozens of dual nationals are held. In videos posted online, gunfire and sirens can be heard. An Iranian official has been quoted in the local media blaming the fire and what he called unrest, which he said had been brought under control. Anti-government protests were again held in a number of Iranian cities. Rana Rahampour says there were fierce clashes.
In previous cases, as soon as protests started, the authorities shut down the internet and they massacred people and it died down. This time round, because of the level of violence that they're using against protesters, today, for example, there was a video in which plainclothes officers with guns were beating up a woman and they were dragging her inside a car, a normal car, not even a police car, and they were pointing their guns at other protesters to deter them. These images are creating more and more anger, and people are more defiant and ready to fight the Islamic Republic.
Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has announced extra containment measures to tackle the spread of Ebola. When the latest outbreak began, he said lockdowns were not needed. Here's Patience Atahere.
President Museveni has declared with immediate effect a 21-day quarantine in the two districts of Mubende and Kasanda in the central region, which are the epicenter of the epidemic. Moving into or out of the two districts is now prohibited. A 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew is also in place. All burials, whether confirmed to be Ebola-related or not, are to be conducted by trained teams. The president said that he was tired of educating and pleading with the public to comply with health guidelines after officials discovered that some people had travelled from one of the affected districts to eastern Uganda.
Russia's defence ministry says that 11 people were killed at a military training ground when two citizens of an ex-Soviet state opened fire on trainees during an exercise. The authorities described the incident in the Belgorod region as a terrorist act. Elon Musk says his Starlink satellite firm will keep supplying free broadband to Ukraine. The billionaire had threatened to start charging. Here's Risto Pukko.
The Starlink system has proved vital for Ukraine as it defends itself against Russian aggression. The network of small satellites that provide broadband internet assisted the country in restarting its infrastructure after this week's missile attacks. Elon Musk gave no reason for his apparent change of mind, but the threat to start charging Ukraine had been harshly criticized, as had been his earlier proposals for ending the war, which many felt favored the Kremlin and would have allowed it to keep illegally occupied land.
BBC News. Greek police say 92 migrants were found near the northern land border with Turkey, naked and some with physical injuries. The men were discovered on Friday morning near the river Evros. The police say the men had been pushed by Turkey into Greek territory in plastic boats. Turkey has not yet responded. The head of the International Monetary Fund has called on global policymakers to come together in a bid to stabilise the world economy. Speaking in Washington to central bank governors, Kristalina Georgieva warned that soaring prices and rising interest rates had placed developing nations at high risk. She called the IMF a global firefighter, which retained $700 billion in lending capacity, with about 28 applications under consideration.
We are clear about this role. We take responsibility for our analysis to be precise and honest at the global level and for countries, to speak truth to power.
There was particular concern for developing countries, she said. IMF members have almost unanimously called on Russia to end its war in Ukraine. Ukrainian officials say Russian troops have murdered the chief conductor of Kherson's music and drama theatre. The Culture Ministry says after Yuri Karpatenka refused to cooperate with the occupiers, soldiers turned up at his home and shot him dead. Reports say the occupiers wanted him to perform at a concert, but he refused to cooperate. The Norwegian authorities have arrested another Russian citizen they say had been illegally using drones to photograph sensitive targets. The man was detained after he was seen taking pictures at Tromsø airport in the far north. In the material confiscated from him, the police found photographs from another airport in the region and pictures of military helicopters. BBC News.